Welcome back. We'll pick up where we left off for the section 48.2 PowerPoint. We began to talk about digestion in the stomach. The growl that you hear of the stomach is the smooth muscles actually moving in the stomach. Smooth muscle. Remember, that's the involuntary. You don't choose to do it, your body does for you. Mechanical digestion happens in the stomach. There are actually 3 layers of muscles. There's one circular, there's one longitudinal, and there's one diagonal. This really helps the muscle churn in all directions and churn up the food. You have chemical digestion. The inner layer is highly wrinkled and make gastric pits, so that wrinkling, each one, wrinkled stomach like this. Inside those gastric pits, you have gastric fluid, which helps digest. Specifically, you have the enzyme pepsin. Pepsin helps break down protein. So the chemical digestion of protein begins in the stomach. Pepsin only works in a very acidic environment, which the stomach has, actually about a pH value of 2. Whenever the food gets in the stomach, we call it chyme. We mentioned that earlier. All that food and the mixture of all those different enzymes. In the stomach, you actually have a couple sphincters. You have what's called a cardiac sphincter, which lets the food particles and the bolus enter the stomach, but doesn't let things come back up. At least it's not supposed to. If it does, that's called like acid reflux, and you can have a little bit of heartburn. That's contents of the stomach going up your esophagus, making it burn because of all that acidic environment that's supposed to be in the stomach. And then you have the pyloric sphincter, which is the doorway which lets it go through into the small intestine, but not back up. So those are like gates, those sphincters. You need to know them. Cardiac from the esophagus, and then pyloric leaving the stomach. Now, in the small intestine, which is where the food goes next, you have 3 sections. You have a duodenum, which is the first 10 inches or 25 centimeters. Then you have the jejunum, then you have the ileum. Those are the 3 sections, and they're kind of shown here. Here's the duodenum in this purpley, and then this green jejunum, and then the ileum in the red. The whole small intestine is lined with what we call villi. These villi are finger-like projections, and on these villi, they have their own villi called microvilli. This adds to the surface area, and then inside these villi are lacteals, which are capillaries. And I can show you them here. You can see the villi, and inside the villi are the capillaries. And this is where the food is going to absorb into the blood. And then the blood can carry it around to the rest of your body. So the small intestine is where absorption begins, where the food actually begins to get absorbed into your blood. There is still some digestion happening in the small intestine. Secretions from the liver and pancreas can combine in the small intestine to continue to digest food. There are glands in the lining of the small intestine which can help release enzymes which turn proteins into amino acids. Remember, we're breaking them down. Disaccharides into monosaccharides, fats into specific glycerol and fatty acid chains. So we're breaking all of this down. Okay. Also, the duodenum releases mucus, which helps protect the small intestine from the acidic environment of the stomach. Sodium carbonate also does that, released by the pancreas. The small intestine is where most of the absorption happens. The first 25 centimeters, which is the duodenum, all of the digestion happens in there. The rest of it is just used for absorption. You have to get the amino acids, monosaccharides, glycerols, and fatty acids into your blood. You do that through the small intestine at the villi into the lacteals, which are capillaries. The large intestine is also called the colon sometimes. There's 4 major parts. There's the ascending colon, and I can show you a picture of that right here. So the small intestine ends down here. It goes up the ascending colon, then it goes across the transverse colon, then down the descending colon, then back a little bit and called the sigmoid colon. Okay, it's about 5 feet long. And in the large intestine, all digestion and most absorption is done. Only nutrients produced by bacteria and a little water are left. That ends, and good luck.